This is going to be a short intro because Jesus Christ, there's like 21 abnormalities in the TETH class, and this script is already getting too long. Actually, before we get into the ranking, let me make a correction. Plague Doctor doesn't actually switch every single abnormality every day. Plague Doctor is the only one that switches places with other abnormalities, which is still pretty annoying. So, just like in the first part, the same categories I used to rank the Zion class abnormalities, I'll be using for all of the abnormalities in the game. So, let's not make this intro any longer because this is already long enough. This is my ranking of the TETH class abnormalities. I like 1.76 megahertz. It's a great trainer for Justice early on in your game, which is nice because Justice is the most expensive stat to level up with lob points. If you're wondering what these lob points are, it's the currency you use to hire new employees and to level up their stats. Anyways, it can be really annoying if its Clifoth counter reaches zero, though that really depends on your progress of the game. If in early game, it can very much cause havoc in your facility, but if in mid or late game, it's more of an annoyance than anything. So, you might be wondering, what does it do when the Clifoth counter reaches zero? Well, a random hallway will start to get a static effect on it. If an employee is in a room with a static effect, it will constantly deal white damage to the employee and over time will spread out to other hallways. The way to remove the static effect is to work with 1.76 megahertz and get a good result four times. I like 1.76 megahertz. It's a great abnormality to have in early game. I really like Beauty and the Beast. It's just such a great concept for a abnormality and a great spin of the fairy tale it is based out of. If you couldn't tell by the name alone, it is inspired by the fairy tale Beauty and the Beast. But instead, Beauty is the Beast, which I find so good because it's such a creative spin of the original story. So anyways, let me talk about how Beauty and the Beast works. You see, the work type it loves is repression. Repression works, so you would think to keep working with it with repression. Well, if you do keep doing repression work with it 2 times in a row, well, this would happen. So the abnormality dies and the employee that worked with it became the new Beauty and the Beast. What you have to do is to alternate working with it with repression and any other work type, in which you'll be able to do repression work with it again. Anyways, I just think Beauty and the Beast, is just such a great abnormality. Behavior adjustment is, in my opinion, one of the best item abnormalities in the game because it just increases the justice of the employee who has it equipped and has very little downsides. It only has 3 negatives, and that is it lowers the insight of the employee. If the employee's SP reaches 0, they'll die immediately rather than panicking. And finally, if you send the employee to return it within 30 seconds, they'll die immediately. And which one of those, in my opinion, isn't even a downside, and the rest are pretty minor. I highly recommend equipping it to one of your employees because that's just free justice right there. Sure, you lose some insight, but in my opinion, that's very easily fixable. Just equip the employee with an eagle suit that has very high resistance to white damage. I don't really have any thoughts on Bloodbath, that's why I'm putting it here. In my opinion, it's a very forgettable abnormality. Its special ability is that it instantly kills the employee working with it if they had a level 1 fortitude or level 1 temperance, in which once you get HUD score suppression reward, you won't have to worry about it anymore. Though, depending on how many people that got killed by it, a hand will surface from bloodbath. And depending on how many hands that are in the bath, you'll gain more PE boxes, in which, in my opinion, is kind of not worth it. But at least this abnormality can be useful for your facility. Crumbling Armor. Honestly, I don't like this abnormality because its special ability is glitch. You might be wondering how it's glitched. Well, its special ability is whoever works repression on it will gain a aura around them. Whoever has the aura around them will gain a stat increase, but the more they do repression work, it will gradually become negative, getting a decrease in stats, as well as instantly dying if ordered to do attachment work with any other abnormality. And this is where the glitch I was talking about shows up. You see, even if you remove the aura from the employee, they will still die if you do attachment work, which is annoying, but as a silver lining, it does have a pale damage ego weapon, which is great because a majority of the enemies in the game are weak to pale damage. So that's nice. There's nothing special about this guy. He's literally a guy in a straitjacket. So I'm putting him here. He doesn't have a special ability or anything. There's nothing I particularly hate or like about him. He's just kinda there, so let's move on. The same with Forsaken Murderer. I don't really have any thoughts on it. It doesn't have any special ability or anything, though it is a good trainer of temperance, and that's about it. Also, I know this is probably my shortest segment for a abnormality. I don't like Grave of Cherry Blossoms, so that's why I'm putting it here. It's one of those abnormalities that decreases its Glyphal counter if you get a good work result with it, which those abnormalities are just really annoying and hard to deal with. So this abnormality's special ability is when its Glyphal counter reaches 0, it will attract multiple clerks and employees to its containment cell, and whoever gets to it first will die immediately, and the rest will go back to their original state. I'm pretty certain all of you can see the problem here. You just have to hope that a clerk gets to it first rather than a employee. That's all my thoughts on it, so let's move on. I honestly hate this thing. It's one of the worst item abnormalities in the game, but it's nowhere near the worst. Its special ability is that it regenerates the health of the employee who equips it, but only if the employee loses HP. And if the employee having it equipped has full health, they will die over a certain time. This actually sounds good. Why am I putting it in such a low ranking? Well, because it doesn't work. It's supposed to heal you for 2.4 HP every 3 seconds, but it just does it once and never again, which makes it the most useless item in the game. Meat Lantern has to be one of the most worst designed abnormality in the game, so that's why I'm putting it here. First of all, it has one Clive counter, which is already bad as it is. But the thing is, the main reason why Meat Lantern is such a bad designed abnormality is because of its special ability. Its special ability is, if you worked with it and the work took less than 40 seconds, its Clive counter will decrease, which means it will escape immediately. The thing is, you will definitely trigger this because of two things. Firstly, temperance. It increases the work speed, and secondly, observation level. By purchasing its managerial tips and its information, you will gain observation levels. And by at level 4, it will also increase your work speed of that specific abnormality. And what makes it even worse is that it can very much one shot every single one of your employees. It definitely deserves the title of one of the worst abnormalities in the game. but at least you can ignore it once you get all of its information and equipment. It's basically the same with Forsaken Murderer, it's just an old lady. But at least it does have a special ability. That is, if you don't work with it, its containment cell will start to have an effect on it. If you send somebody to work with it, it will constantly do white damage. And that's it. It's nothing really special. A really forgettable abnormality, really. So let's move on. So this is going to be the end of the video. I underestimated how much footage I needed for the video, so I'm going to split it up into two parts. The next part will be coming out very soon, like maybe tomorrow. But yeah, also, before I go, I am so sorry if I sound way worse than usual in here. I still haven't recovered from the cold. So yeah, bye.